This is Goku-san, DBZ. And this is, of course, the first of the two specials since Halloween is coming up in just over a week. Today will be the top 12 vampire movies. Next Sunday will be the top 12 horror movies. And that includes both. Even if a movie's more dominantly suspense, it will still qualify for it. As long as it does have elements of horror in it, obviously. And yes, as you can see in the background, two new posters. A New Hope, and of course, poster of Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And I can't wait. But, anyways, of course, as always, this is based on opinions of people on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and Tumblr. And also looked at IMDb as well on this, and also Rotten Tomatoes. And this won't be strictly American vampire movies, so keep that in mind. This will also include movies from other parts of the world. Asia and Europe as well qualify. So it won't be strictly American movies. Okay. Starting off, coming in at number 12. Very cheesy. And it branch off and have much better TV series than movie, but still coming in at number 12 because of a cult following. From 1992, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And yes, I may never understand the popularity of the Buffy movie. I personally have seen it, and I don't like it. I only like the TV series. I thought the 7 seasons of the show were great. Some seasons weaker than others, like most shows, obviously. But it was way better, way more serious. There was just a lot of B-rated movie acting in the Buffy movie, but somehow it gained a cult following, like the TV series also gained a cult following. But more deservedly so with the show, not the movie. But keep in mind, that's just my opinion, and obviously this list does not contain my views. Coming in at number 11, from Asia, a Japanese horror movie called, from 2009, Thirst. And when I checked all on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, it actually had a pretty high overall. Like on IMDb, for instance, it got something like a 7.1 or 7.2 out of 10, which is a pretty good overall viewpoint, though IMDb is known for being a little more biased than, say, Rotten Tomatoes, which gives both a viewer score and critic score. And the critics look at stuff more as an overall movie rather than being fans of a particular genre. They have to look at it from a more neutral, critical standpoint. And that's probably why I personally like Rotten Tomatoes more than I like IMDb. IMDb doesn't really have as much really, it's not as credible, you could say, because of the way their rating system works. But anyways, yes, coming in number 11, Thirst. Coming in at number 10, from Europe, from 1987, Near Dark. And yes, Near Dark, good overall movie, at least from things I've heard. Never seen Near Dark, just like I never saw Thirst. But it has a good overall critic score. That's one thing I'll say for vampire movies. It's higher up in the critic score than a lot of other vampire movies. And it seems to be very well liked. In particularly, it seemed to have done very well in England of places. Of course, there's a very large goth culture in England and also in Germany, are two big countries in Europe with big goth cultures. So it's no surprise that Near Dark did well, and 80s did produce some really good movies. Horror, science fiction, and also vampire. Coming in at number 9 is a tie, first from 2002, Blade 2. And tied with it from 2009, the prequel. That, at least for me personally, I thought was better than the second, and certainly way better than the fourth one, and now they got a fifth one in the works. This is a prequel, and it is Underworld, Rise of the Lycan. And yes, I agree, Blade 2 is good. I don't think it's as good as Blade 1, but to be fair, I also don't overall hate Blade Trinity like a lot of people do. I thought it was very cheesy. I liked the guy who the guest appearances as Dracula, and Triple H was hilarious. But anyways, on to, it was an interesting crossbreed like vampires they created in the movie. It was good overall. I thought it was good. I didn't like it as much, of course, as I said, as the first one, but it was pretty popular among overall viewers. That was shown. I mean, look at the box office. And Underworld Rise of the Lycan, without doubt, is my personal favorite of all the 4 Underworld movies. Now, some people liked Evolution somewhat more. I didn't care as much for Evolution. I thought Rise of the Lycan was better than it. But I can't deny the first one was incredible. The first Underworld, which is amazing. And it really helped build a great mythology. And there's some counteractants, and it had different, of course, actors, obviously, in Rise of the Lycan than the others. But it still was good. Overall story was interesting. Good special effects also. And I just genuinely enjoyed Rise of the Lycan. It may be actually my favorite of the movies, personally. But, yes, tied for number 9. Coming in at number 8. From 1985, Fright Night. And personally, on this movie coming in at number 8, Fright Night, I've never seen the original Fright Night. I know. I need to watch it, I agree. I definitely need to check it out, because I've heard nothing but positive things overall about Fright Night. A lot of people say it really is a good vampire movie. And I personally liked the remake of Fright Night from like 2009, 2010, somewhere around that time frame. I personally liked that Fright Night. At least it wasn't crappy like a certain vampire movie series based on a novel series, if you know what I'm talking about. But Fright Night, very positive overall view on it. Next, coming in at number 7 from 2002, Queen of the Damned. And yes, Queen of the Damned is a very good overall movie. Now, this is one of the few vampire movies on this list I personally actually own in my own collection of movies. Just like I own Underworld Rise of the Lycan, and I own all 3 Blade movies, of course. Got them in a trilogy pack when they were on sale last year. So, couldn't resist. But Queen of the Damned is an interesting movie. It's not one of my favorites overall, but it is a good, solid vampire movie. At least it's more loyal to the original mythology of vampires, which is that vampires are evil and dark, and they're not cuddly or fluffy emo-ish. They are goth, they are dark, they are evil. And Underworld for the Queen of the Damned did a good job on that. At least it showed vampires to the way they should be. Not to mention a very attractive young lady in that movie. Sadly, she passed away in a plane crash not too long after finished filming the movie. And of course, she was in a R&B group, TLC. And I personally liked her in Queen of the Damned. She's probably my second favorite female vampire I've seen. So was certain somebody in 3 of the Underworld movies. Coming in at number 6 is another tie. from 2009, Daybreakers, tied with 1931's Dracula. And yes, first I'd like to talk, though, about the second one I mentioned. 1931 Dracula, true classic, the first real true vampire movie. It truly is a classic, and it's regarded to this day very highly. And it's ranked in the top 100 movies of all time by the American Film Institution. And it's one of the only horror movies on that list. As well as it's ranked in the top 10 of the top 100 horror movies of all time, also by American Film Institution. And it's very highly regarded among critics on Rotten Tomatoes as well, and IMDb. But it's very good, and it's what started really the genre of vampire movies. And in 1931, that would have been considered, yeah, it truly is a classic of the black and white era of movies. It's probably the best older, monster film, because I personally didn't like Wolfman or Werewolf. I didn't like the old Frankenstein and stuff. The only one I really enjoyed was the original Dracula. And I feel it truly is a classic among horror and among vampire films. And Daybreakers is a modern take, new mythology over vampires. It's kind of interesting because they end up showing that there's actually a cure to stop being a vampire. And it's very interesting. I forget the actor's name, but he played the Green Goblin in 2002 Spider-Man movie. He's in this movie, as well as, I'm trying to remember who else. That's like one of the really high up ones. He was in Jurassic Park 1 and 3, and quite a few other movies. Sometimes I'm bad with certain actors' names, and I apologize for that. There's just too many names, too many facts to remember. Especially when I'm constantly trying to work on future material and stuff for Topless and other things as well. But yes, Daybreakers and Dracula, 1931 Dracula, tied for number 6. Number 5 from 1987, one of my personal top 3 favorite vampire movies, period. The Lost Boys. And really, is it any surprise The Lost Boys would make it to the top 5 of vampire movies of all time? I think not. It truly is a modern classic film, definitely one of the best movies of the entire decade of the 80s, a high note for that decade, and a high note for vampire movies in general. It's very highly regarded to this day, very positively overall. And you can't say that about a lot of vampire movies in this day and age. A lot are just the same old crap. Not that great overall, but this is one of the few exceptions I can say to that. That this is good overall, and I very much enjoyed it. And coming in at number 4 from 2003, Underworld. And yes, is it a surprise that Underworld won? Came in at number 4. No, because of its overall popularity. Vampire movies, there aren't too many major blockbuster vampire movies. Underworld did $170 million. So it's definitely one of the largest grossing vampire movies. Because in general, vampire movies don't make a lot of money. With the exception of a certain vampire franchise right now that will remain nameless. But it's a really good, as I mentioned before, Underworld opens up this great mythology between the vampires that are Lycan, and for those of you who don't know much about goth mythology and stuff, Lycan are werewolves. Yeah, there's people out there that don't know what Lycan are. They're werewolves. For those who don't study different types of mythology on different creatures. Coming in at number 3 from 1994, starring Brad Pitt. Interview with the Vampire, which is a modern classic, and it's got some lovey-dovey stuff, but overall the movie is still more goth than it is emo. There is certain elements that might be considered emo-ish, but this is still goth, and this was before emo thing existed. That didn't start until like the 2000s. The 90s it didn't exist, thank God. But yes, Interview with Vampire is a true modern vampire movie classic. Really good. Probably of the vampire movies on this list, maybe at least one of the top 2 best among quality, getting good talent in acting and overall, such as that. It's definitely one of the best, I would say, overall acted vampire movies. I would have to rank it number 2 among the top 12 list of being the best well acted. Number 2 on this list may not be as well acted as number 1, but as this one, but it's more iconic in pop culture today. Number 2, though, is a tie. I sadly forget the exact year of the first of these 2 movies I'm going to mention tied for number 2. Dracula, it was, I think, in the 1950s or 1960s, starring, of course, as Dracula was the late, great Christopher Lee, which made an incredible Dracula. And personally, if you've never seen Dracula with Christopher Lee, you really need to go back and check out the movie. Christopher Lee was incredible as Dracula, and ended up doing a series of Dracula films, like 5 or 6 Dracula films he ended up doing. But it was just really good overall, and very enjoyable. I can't say that about a lot of Dracula films. But Christopher Lee was awesome as Dracula. He's been incredible in so many movies over the years he's did. Like Saruman in Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, doing Count Dooku in the Star Wars prequels, Episode 2 and Episode 3, obviously doing other great movies of older stuff, like from the 70s, the original Wicker Man, which he was great in that. I would say that and Dracula are the 2 oldest Christopher Lee films I've seen personally, and I like both of them a lot. I like a little bit more Wicker Man for different reasons. But, definitely, Dracula with Christopher Lee is an incredible movie. Now, tied with it, number 2 spot from 1998 is the original Blade film with, of course, Wesley Snipes. And yes, that's what I said. Iconic. The original Blade is very iconic. And a lot of people didn't realize the Blade films were based on comic books. See, I knew Blade was based on comics only because I saw Blade in the animated Spider-Man series from the mid-90s. That's the only reason why I knew it came from comic material, was because of the crossover episodes it did, involving, of course, the villain Michael Morbius. But it's really incredible overall, and I highly recommend you check it out. Now, some honorable mentions first. Underworld Evolution. As well as Blade Trinity. Now, 3 dishonorable mention vampire movies. Vampires Suck, Vampire Academy, and the top dishonorable mention, Twilight. I despise Twilight with a passion. It's an insult to vampire movies, period. It made them all lovey-dovey, sparkle in the sunlight, ooh ah, emo vampires, cute. No one finds it disturbing like an over 100-year-old vampire is having sexual relations with like a 16, 17-year-old girl. And no one finds that disturbing? It's called pedophilia. I digress. But anyways, as you can tell, I very much despise the crappy Twilight movies. They're so bad. Anyways, coming in at number 1 from 1992, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And yes, coming in number 1 is Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is no surprise. Bram Stoker's Dracula, incredible book, and a mind-blowing movie. This is the number 1 best well-acted vampire movie on this list without a doubt. Number 2, obviously, is the Interview with a Vampire, and then I'd say probably Dracula with Christopher Lee. But yes, number 1 without a shadow of a doubt, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Great, incredible movie. Very well acted, very top-notch done. By today's standards and graphics, it may have not aged super well in the special effects department, but that's not what makes a movie great, is the special effects. It's not. And stupid people today, like younger stereotypical teens and hipsters who want to say, unless it's good, top-notch graphics, it's not good. Shut up. That's all I gotta say to you. Just shut up. I am sick of people ranking stuff by special effects department. And fine, if you want to call it like a top list for special effects, be my guest. But if you're basing some on special effects instead of on overall storytelling and acting job, the overall picture, putting together a great modern film like Bram Stoker's Dracula or Interview with a Vampire, then you don't deserve to call yourself a film this or that, a critic or anything. A critic means understanding things a little bit more, not basing it on special effects. A true film critic, like to pass away, my personal favorite critic of all time, Roger Ebert, stated once upon a time that films are about going to the theater to experience it with the big screen and everything, to just feel like be sucked into that world for the 2 hours or whatever length the movie is, to take away from the real world. That's the whole point of cinema. And you can't do that just based on special effects. There has to be really good storytelling involved, and there has to be a very good, well acting job as well, in order for this to actually succeed. See, one of the few exceptions where everything's top well acted, everything's done very well from an artistic point of view and special effects overall, would be like Lord of the Rings. It has a perfect balance of all three of these things. The storytelling is perfect, the acting is perfect, the special effects are perfect, and yeah, in general, of course, story or mythology is all A's across the board. But Bram Stoker's Dracula gets an A in all the main areas that matter. I'm sorry I went on a little rant, but it's just certain stuff that gets under my skin, I see, like, especially here on YouTube sometimes, on different, like, movie reviews or, like, video game reviews and things like that. People want to continue bitch about things like that. Well, guess what? Suck it up. Life sucks. Deal with it. But anyways, this was my top 12 vampire films. Stay tuned for next Sunday for the top 12 horror movies. And I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you like this overall. And I hope you appreciate a viewpoint of someone who tries to look at things from a more critical perspective rather than what is trendy today. I try to look at things from more that perspective. I guess you could say of movie critics here on YouTube, the one I somewhat more lean towards agreeing on, at least on some aspects, is obviously on the area of caring about acting ability and things of this nature, would be Doug Walker or the Nostalgia Critic, and also Jeremy Johns, though I disagree with him on certain things, on certain movies, but for the most part I do agree with these two critics in particular. And I appreciate Nostalgia Critic because of looking at things, and just like me, very much highly respected the late great Roger Ebert from Siskel and Ebert. And anyways, this video originally was strictly going to be dedicated, and the next one will be definitely strictly dedicated to Wes Craven, but also I'm dedicating this as well to Christopher Lee. And I hope all you have a good upcoming Halloween next week. And leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Please like, thumbs up, subscribe, and share video if you agree at all with any of this. And also check out some of my comic book reviews that I've been doing, and I'll be doing 3 over the next today and tomorrow. I'll be doing 3 more comic book reviews. The first will be Star Wars Lando Issue 1, then Deadpool vs. Thanos Issue 1, and the special crossover of Todd McFarlane and Frank Miller, Spawn Batman. So stay tuned for those 3 special comic book reviews. And anyways, as always, this is GokuSunDBZ. Follow me on Twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ, as well as, of course, you can follow me on Google Plus as well. And here's a piece of music, of course, to end, since I am GokuSunDBZ, obviously. Oh yeah, if you all haven't seen, yep, you gotta check out Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F. Just saw the movie Tuesday when it was released. Incredible Dragon Ball Z movie. It is much like the newer voice actor doing Frieza. I like the one who did the original, because I never watched Dragon Ball Z Kai Show, because I don't like to cut out all of the filler. I actually am somebody who likes the filler involved in DBZ. But have a good time.